down there, and then Thursday. Yeah, you're spending out Thursday night. It's me and you are the only two spending out. She got it. Yeah. Me and you in the same room, one
I didn't hear a word. I didn't hear a word.
Put your face to red for me.
I didn't hear a word.
Oh, I love messing with you.
At my age, I can claim I didn't hear it. I did hear it. I don't remember it.
Everyone signed up for public comment down here?
Got 2 minutes, Mr. Chair.
Do what?
So they got 2 minutes if they want to.
Yeah, they got 2 minutes.
2 minutes before
Sign up, yeah. See. Well, I've got Donny's already in the morning. I got a B for those. Yes, right here. I'll tell you which numbers are changing. And then when I do, if there's any more, this AC. Tax releases are. See, this is 7.
That's actually 7.
Not this one.
Let's say that. That's cool.
4. Where's it?
Surplus property, that would be
9C, not 8C. Okay. So it'll just fall under that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
We don't have to.
That's correct.
Okay, folks, it is 7 o'clock. It's good to see everybody out here tonight. We like to see large crowds at our meeting. And it is being streamed live, so we want to welcome those if anyone is watching through our live streaming. At this time, I will now call this meeting to order. Okay, if everyone will stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we will observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, members of the board, on our agenda, we will have a change of, number 5 will be Tammy Cody from number 5. That will change the numbers from there all the way down. 6 will be Mr. Attorney Donny Laws. 6A, 6B, the attorney. 7, Brooke Smith. 8 will be Rhea Hollars for our finance officer. 9 will be county manager, and we have an addition of 9E, which will be resolution to change of a meeting. 10, closed session, and 11 will be the adjournment. Okay. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda?
I move that the agenda be approved as modified.
I second that
Okay.
motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Weck, second by Commissioner Gentry for the approval of the agenda. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Agenda is approved. Thank you. Caught up here, folks. So keep up. Okay. Approval of the July 2018 special and regular meeting minutes. You have those before you. You've reviewed them and looked at them. Any corrections or deletions for the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, being none, I would move that we approve the minutes.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Gentry for the approval of the July 2018 special and regular meeting minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wechter. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Okay, third item on our agenda is public comment. There is a 3-minute time limit for each person, so please pay attention. Our county manager will be keeping the time, and when he raises his hand, that means you are getting close. So please observe this 3-minute time limit. First person is Mike Tuesday.
We don't know what happens when the hand comes down, so nobody's ever
Nobody's
tested
ever
yet.
made it that far.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, Mike.
You all know how I love public speaking. In late 2009 and early 2010, the country was embroiled in debate over the health care reform law that would be enacted in March of 2010. During this time, we heard such things as, we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it. Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. There was no time allowed for evaluation or discussion. Few people had time to read it, much less note any possible weaknesses, flaws, or ambiguities. And my all-time favorite, we assumed that any snafus that arose could be easily fixed. And we all know how that turned out. You may be asking yourself, why is he bringing this up now? I see the potential to make similar mistakes in your negotiations with the state on the juvenile inmates issue. The state and the sheriff are pushing for a rush to judgment and forming a contract that is currently being negotiated. A contract for a program that, it appears, no one truly understands or comprehends. I would hope that whoever is doing the negotiations fully understands the program before going forward. I have sent all of you an email with detailed questions and concerns I have before you enter into an agreement. I have yet to receive an answer to any of my questions. If you will not answer me, I hope that you will, at the very least, get the answers for yourself. Much talk has been made about the proposal that in a perfect world could possibly bring in $1.335 million. I've even heard 1.5 million being bantered about. In reality, this amount will be much less once you remove administrative expenses, salaries and benefits for 4 new deputies, feeding the children, and I say children because that is exactly what they are, clothing the children, providing health care for the children, and most importantly, educating the children. My concern is that you are falling prey to irrational exuberance. I fear your vision may be clouded by dollar signs dancing in your heads. I implore you to ensure that everything is put into writing and that we do not accept answers such as, the state will take care of that, as being sufficient for not putting it in writing. There should be no handshake deals or understandings. Everything should be in writing before you even remotely consider a vote. I implore you not to vote on a contract until you fully understand and discuss all the ramifications of entering into an agreement with the state. Let us learn from the mistakes that were made in 2010. The state is going to work in the state's best interests, not the county's interests. We, the people of Madison County, are counting on you to safeguard our interests and not leave us on the hook to fit the bill for the state.
Thank you, Mike.
I don't know if it's Pete Land?
Land.
Pete Land?
Well, that's a tough act to follow. I spoke to this board in June, And I come back again today with some questions for the board based on that prior discussion. I'd like to bring to your attention a few thoughts. Everyone in public office knows that when events occur that lead to litigation, that often the people sued are the ones with the deepest pockets, government agencies and corporations. There are reasons for this, including a desire to achieve an out-of-court settlement, or because the objective achieved by their inclusion could provide the best financial settlements. So let me pose to you two questions. You've been publicly informed that your zoning ordinance, as amended, addresses junked vehicles on property. Now let us assume that a child, a disabled person, or a disoriented person gets into one of these vehicles and cannot get out. He or she dies from hypothermia. The family sues the owner of the property. They also sue the county for failure to enforce their code. Do you want this litigation to occur based on something you've chosen not to do? Secondly, a citizen has been storing garbage on their property. This is another hypothetical. Included in that storage are highly flammable materials. As a result of spontaneous combustion, a fire breaks out. It spreads to the woods. A major fire event occurs. Several homes, barns, and animals are lost. Who gets sued? I think that, as unpleasant as it may be, you need to discuss how or if you should address these issues. I would hope that a response, even if it is only an interim response, can be shared at the September meeting. And I would hope that you would spend some time with the county council discussing the impact of not enforcing existing codes and allowing public hazards to exist. Thank you very much. You can pass these down. That's a copy of the statements. Just leave me mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Chris Word.
Sir?
This will be even shorter. My name is Chris Worley, and I live in the Walnut Creek community up on Walnut Creek here. And some of my neighbors and stuff have had some questions about the hands-on wildlife experience. That's at 2202 Walnut Creek Road. My main two questions that we have is, what type of animals have they been permitted for? And the second one is, do they have plans in the future for larger predator type animals? And if so, will the community be alerted to and be able to voice an opinion about those being there?
Thank you.
Stephen Clark.
Mine's pretty short too. I also, Steve Clark, I live in the Walnut Creek community. And the question I have is on the on-hands wildlife experience. Are they truly a business? Have they gotten the permits for the building, all the required permits that they're supposed to have the building, and are they ADA compliant? That's it.
Thanks, Steve.
Ms. Sue Peak.
I'm not as short-winded as they were. I'm not going to pass my 3 minutes. Okay. My name's Sue Peak. I'm a resident of the Walnut Creek community and also a member of the Walnut Creek Community Center. I'm here to voice the largest part of Walnut Creek residents' concerns about the so-called safari adventures at 2202 Walnut Creek Road. And by the way, that is what they're labeling themselves as on the computer, is Safari Adventures. Starts with the E if you want to look it up. Our understanding is that there has been no permits given for the building's electrical or sewage, but they continue to build, which seems to be a large safety hazard to the public. The community center is located along the creek downstream from this zoo. We are very concerned about the sewage runoff from these animals. People who are using the center for family reunions, birthdays, and etc. are drawn to our most popular natural resource that our community is named after, which is Walnut Creek. The children love playing and wading in the creek. Also, it is our understanding Madison County has a no exotic animal ordinance. Are they complying? We now know they have many exotic animals such as kangaroos, monkeys, lemurs, iguanas, sloth, Alaskan wolves, and etc. The animals were not quarantined or vet checked when entering the state of North Carolina as required by law according to the health department. They are telling people to come back. They have many more animals coming. What will there be? Are we going to wait and see? Let me catch my place here, I'm sorry. They are not containing these animals very well. They have been out several times. So far, several people have seen the wolves and a monkey. Pictures were taken. Husky puppies and dogs are being showed at the zoo, trying to trick people to think that's what they have, but the wolves are not shown. The wolves are in another area. We already know of one attack at the facility. The zoo is 2 properties away from the Madison High School. Also, they are open for business at $15 entry fee per person. Is this not a business? They are trying to hide behind a nonprofit label. Signs are posted at entrance to property. No government officials allowed on premises. To post a sign like that, you know that things are happening illegal. Has this property been rezoned for business? They are thumbing their noses at the rules and regulations of the state of North Carolina and especially in Madison County. The other citizens of this county abide by the rules and regulations. Their opinion to us mountain folks is, quote, we're a bunch of blanking idiots, unquote. Walnut Creek Community Center has had numerous calls asking how this can be stopped. As you see, our community concerns are many, such as our natural resource, which is the creek, safety of people entering without knowing, lack of inspections or permits, safety of our elderly, our children, pets, farm animals, and etc. for harm and diseases. The Walnut Creek community is requesting your perseverance in closing this facility. If this means a court legal case, can a temporary court order be put in place to shut down this facility for the best interest and safety of our community in Madison County until a permanent decision is made? Thank you for all your help in keeping our community and county safe.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you, sir.
Lisa, Mace?
I'm here to speak on my experience with some of the animals from the hands-on experience. On April the 25th, 2018, I pulled up to the intersection of Fisher Lane and Walnut Creek. At that point in time, because I was so astounded at what I was seeing, I did take photos of the 2 animals that approached my vehicle. They had no regard that I was there. They could care less. They were not afraid of me in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I knew that it was not a domestic animal. It was something that should be either in the wild somewhere or in a zoo somewhere and not this close to residential facility. I am a mother and I am a grandmother. And I have 2 precious little girls that was out in my yard all day. And I'm telling you, I'm on high alert. Because if they can get out this early in the game, what's going to happen whenever they have more that they can't contain and something that's even more vicious than what we already have? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I see that?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, let us,
Here it is.
if you'll let us just pass it down through and let us look at it.
And there's 3 on here. So y'all can zoom in and take a look at them. this one especially, it was solid black, and he was so tall, he stood at the side of my car and peered in the driver's side window at me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Y'all want to pass it on?
Yeah.
And there's 3 there.
You'll have to shrink it back down and swipe.
Thank you. Do you want your phone back now?
Kathy Robinson.
I as well have pictures, and should I just give them to you now?
Sure.
Just, we'll just look at them as you speak.
She's got Bill's kind of pictures.
I'm Katie Robinson, and my husband and myself, we live at 2204 Walnut Creek Road. Our property joins the, they call it Hands-on Wildlife Experience, but they're really Safari Adventure of North Carolina, if you look that up on the internet. And our property is on the back side of their property. Our right-of-way goes through the center of theirs. On several occasions, we've observed wolves, not huskies, as many as 3, roaming loose at the entrance of our property. Solid white, some black. We've also had them come all the way down to our house, which one picture shows that. Most of the time it's late in the evening, close to dark, and we can hear the wolves howling at different times through the day. In May, this past May, I was coming down the driveway and looked in my rearview mirror, and one was following me down the driveway. So if I'd have been out picking up limbs or anything, you know, I would have had to deal with that if it had come upon me. So it was the black one, and they wear like red collars. The animals, they should be kept in a controlled area, not to let to roam free. When we're on the driveway picking up limbs or going to the barn or anything like at dusk, you never know. The time they came down to the house, we have a corn crib, and I happened to look up, we were out working, and I said, look at those dogs. And they were behind the corn crib looking around. Well, Sam said, I don't think those are dogs. Well, we knew immediately. So they ran, for a good 5 or 10 minutes in front. We have a driveway in front of the house, back and forth, and they're very fast, very fast. And then the other day, well, a couple of weeks ago, there was an incident that was brought to my attention that a person had no idea where I lived. And they had visited the zoo and was talking about it. And I was listening, and he said, you know, I got attacked. So of course, that brightened my eyes, and he said he had his daughter, which is 2 years old, in his hand, and he went into the kangaroo cage, which if you'll see some pictures, they just let them all go in the cage. And they've got little ones, and he had her in his arm, and he said the kangaroo just like this. And it's not a bad place, but it's just, if it had been a child, it could have been bad, like eyes. And they let those kids, if you get on the internet, which I'm sure a lot of you have, they're letting these animals crawl around these kids' necks. So, anyway, they had no water. While handling his daughter, he was allowed, he broke the skin on his arm. They have no running water down there. Then, was there to wash, offered him antiseptic gel to wash with, and that's all they had at the front of the thing. You could use antiseptic gel for anybody. They left and went elsewhere. So there's no sanitary procedures in place, and it seems to be a concern of public safety, among other things. So I appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for the photos too.
Yes, you're welcome.
We can have
I
these.
appreciate it. Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
I appreciate everyone with their concerns about this, and bringing some things to the attention to us and the public. And at this time, I will let our attorney speak and give you some information on what we have.
You're on it.
3 minutes.
No, you explain to these people what's going on.
No time limit.
No, we're paying for you. You take as much time as you need.
He charges by the minute.
Yeah, right.
On behalf of the commissioners, we certainly appreciate you coming here and expressing these concerns. Of course, as you know, Forrest has been well aware of a lot of these concerns for some time. And he shared his concerns with me as well as the commissioners. And these folks here and our officials, we have ordinances that the county can enforce. Now, we can't enforce the ADA. That's a federal law, and someone else would have to enforce that. We can't enforce any ADA compliance. We can't enforce anything that's really related to health issues. That would be the health department in the state of North Carolina. So I'm not putting you off, but what I want you to know is some of the things that you've said here, there are enforcement mechanisms, but it's just not us, okay? We're well aware of issues up there that are within our jurisdiction. We do have ordinances. We have 2 in particular that are applicable here that we have done research with. One, you'll be happy that I tell you something about it. The other one, probably not. We have an exotic animal ordinance that's been on the books, Madison County, for some time. You would think that that would govern the issues here. There's a provision in our exotic animal ordinance that states if the landowner goes through USDA procedures, then they are exempt from our local ordinance. They went through USDA procedures. We weren't involved in that. We wanted to be. We expressed our concern. We are frustrated with what USDA has done. And believe me, they've heard from us, and they will continue to hear from us to review what they have done. Okay? We have our Madison County Land Use Ordinance, which it covers many things, mobile home parks, usages. You all live in an area that is zoned as residential agricultural. I've heard you all mention, and we're well aware of them charging fees for folks to go up there. It increases traffic, and the issue is, are they using their property in a way that is inconsistent with what your property is zoned to be? What is the name of Tony's department exactly?
Inspections.
The inspections department enforces our land use ordinance. We have a zoning administrator, Mr. Tony Williams. He has been actively involved in determining what they're actually using up there. He has done an investigation, and he is well in the process of enforcing our ordinance. As a public record, you can request and see what has been done. Notices of violations have been issued by the county. They have been sent to those folks. They have been served on the landowners. Now, once we start the process, there is a legal process that has to be followed. There are certain time limits that they have. There are things that we can do. Once we give them the notice of violation, we can assess a daily penalty to them. somebody mentioned, getting a temporary order. If they are in violation, we can ask a court to issue an order making them stop the use that is in violation. So that is what the county can do, and I have assured the commissioners that the county departments, as well as the county manager's office and me as county attorney, are diligently going through the process of enforcing our ordinances. Okay? I hope that gives you some concern, but the things that we have done so far is a public record. If you want, you can request a copy of the notice of violation that has been sent out. You can see when it is sent out. You can see what the time limits are for their appeal, and you can follow that process. I can tell you we are doing it.
Okay.
And I think I've shared that with you too. So we hear you.
Thank you, Donny.
All right, that concludes our public comment. Fourth item, Mr. Ron Lewis.
My colleague, Dr. Streeter, is going to be setting up a PowerPoint here for you in just a moment. But I'd like to say what a pleasure it is to be in your beautiful county today.
Glad to have you with us.
As we were driving up here from Morganton, and I've been here numerous times before, if there's a prettier county than North Carolina, then I don't think I've seen it. And if my memory is correct, I have been to all 100 counties in North Carolina. 38 years as a county manager, in the last 4 to 5 with Foundation Forward, I want to speak to you about tonight. When I started my career many years ago in the 70s, two of the most famous or notorious, I'll call them notorious, politicians were from your beautiful county. And I'm sure I don't have to teach you about the history of your county, but the roots run deep in for Madison County. Foundation, I'm here tonight to represent Foundation Forward and not talk about my career as a county manager. I do want to brag on your county manager. I think he's one of the finest young county managers in North Carolina, and I'm sure he's doing a great job for you. David, next. Foundation Forward is a 501c private nonprofit corporation. I'm the treasurer of that corporation. And I'm not here tonight, commissioners and citizens of this beautiful county, to sell you anything. What I am offering is to gift to you at no cost to the county the Charters of Freedom settings. Now, we call them a setting because a monument is memorial to a person or a place or event. These are living documents that our country was founded on and is still very real today in our society and in our country. What is Foundation Forward? I've already told you we're a nonprofit organization. Our passion is to provide easy access for citizens across the country to see the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the Bill of Rights. How many of you, if you don't mind showing me by hands, has been to the National Archives building in Washington? That is not unusual. When I'm in a group about this size, it's about 10%. Our goal over the next 10 years is to make the Charters of Freedom available to any citizen in the country and not have the burden of going to Washington to see these documents. I can't help myself but ask you if you saw the movie National Treasure. And there'll be a lot more hands that go up when I ask if you saw the movie of the National Treasure movie versus have visited the actual site. In the movie The National Treasure, let me remind you, they stole the Declaration of Independence, and the plot thickened as they searched for the Declaration of Independence. This is the National Archives building. Next. As you walk through these big bronze gates, you're pretty much free to move around as you would like. The Declaration of Independence is on the left. There's only 4 pages of the Constitution, and it is in the middle, and the Bill of Rights, or the proposed Bill of Rights, as is displayed in the National Archives building. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that is our Bill of Rights today. That was the original proposed Bill of Rights. Next statement. They're not in the greatest shape in the world. And before long, as history will age these documents, we won't even be able to read them. But there's the Declaration of Independence, and that shows the Constitution. And even though it's just a little newer than the other two, it's hardly readable at all. The Bill of Rights is hardly visible to the eye. It's not unusual for people to realize that we had many great founders, but there were 2 great founders that stood out in terms of education in this great country. That would have been Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. Now, Ben is my favorite. I have been known to dress up like him, and I have a wig that I put on. I have that profile of Ben. But what I like about him is all the ladies loved him. It surely wasn't his appearance. My theory is it was his great intellect, because he was the sage of the founding fathers. Anytime they got stumped, and so many of these men were only in their 20s, that's hard to believe, but they truly were. And if they got stumped and didn't know the answer, they would go to old Ben, and old Ben always had the answer for them. He was a very brilliant man. Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd President of the United States, a farmer, inventor, business person. And many people don't know that he was a manufacturer. He manufactured nails during the colonial days. So that's how he, besides his farm, that's how he made his money. Next. These 2 great founding fathers thought that education should be very simplistic. It's very similar to what we have today in our education system. They thought there should be a primary level for the basics, a secondary level, and then a 3rd level for advanced education. Now, that's the Burke County Courthouse. That's my last county was Burke County before I retired a 2nd time, and I'm kind of partial to this. But under that shade tree, our president and founder of our organization, Vance Patterson, came up with the idea of how he could bring the Charters of Freedom to the school children in Burke County that can't go to Washington and experience the Charters of Freedom. So that was our beginning there. Next, David. And then shortly after that, we made the organization a nonprofit organization. The scope of our project initially was to design and build replicas of the Charters of Freedom displayed as in the National Archives building. We would like for them to be open to the community with high visibility and a lot of foot traffic and access to school children and good parking for buses. That's the only criteria, commissioners, that we asked the location to have. Again, we will display as close as humanly possible to the way they are in the National Archives building. Interestingly enough, no one knows what those dimensions are. You can't take a camera in there. So we would stand by the side and kind of figure out how high it was. And then we have guesstimated, I think we're pretty daggone close, but we've guesstimated the dimensions of those. Next, David. We start out by going subsurface 3.5 feet. We put in basically 19 tons of concrete. It's reinforced fiber concrete with rebar. Now, we have a colleague that was a tanker in the Army. He's a retired sergeant major. He said that he thought he could run a tank into this setting and it wouldn't move. Now, we haven't tried that, and I don't think that we will. But anyway, we want them to last.
Don't challenge our people.
They're designed to last between at least the people, the engineers that designed them to last between 300 and 500 years. Now, I don't know how we're gonna test that, but anyway, that's what they're supposed to last. Next, David. That's one of the side cores after it's finished. They're 4x4. That's the center core, it's 4x12. And then after that is done and the surface is finished, we're proposing to gift to Madison County a brick setting. Now, if for some reason you wanted a different setting other than the brick, we would assist you in that. We would still do the work, but it costs our organization a little more money to do the granite or the Indiana limestone. That's why Western North Carolina is really seeing a lot of the brick settings in place now. Next, David. The documents themselves are bronze plates that are etched. They weigh about 60 pounds apiece, and then they're covered with bullet glass, and then they're framed after that. That's what it looks like when we're finished with it. The Declaration of Independence is on the left, the 4 pages of the Constitution in the middle, and the original proposed Bill of Rights is on the right. Next. We needed an emblem that we could say was our emblem. So we challenged several artists to come up with something that would be the logo for the Charters of Freedom. The eagle represents the Declaration of Independence, strong, defiant, unwavering, determined. The stars at the top represent the articles of the Declaration of Independence, the articles of the Constitution, and the stars at the bottom represent the Bill of Rights. That's our logo. We put a time capsule in the rear of the center, and we would ask the commissioners, the school superintendent, the sheriff, to write letters. And any of you, when we have the dedication, will have an opportunity to sign a document and put that in the time capsule as well. Next, David. It'll be opened on September the 17th, 2087, the 300th anniversary of the adoption of the United States Constitution. There's a story here, and I'm gonna tell it. Now, county managers don't always get along with mayors. So I had recently retired, and Vance Patterson, our founder, says, "Ron, I want you to set up a meeting with the mayor." And I said, let me make sure I understand what you're asking me to do. You want me to set up a meeting with Mayor Cohen? He said, yeah, that's what I want you to do. I said, okay, I'll try it. So I called the city manager, and she said, sure, Ron, when do you want to do that meeting? So we had a meeting. And Vance made the presentation just like I'm making to you, as we wanted to gift the Charters of Freedom to Morganton and to Brooke County. And then the mayor asked, where are you going to put it? And 30 years ago, the mayor had planted that old dying dead tree there. And when Vance said, we want to put it where that old tree is, all the staff went, and the mayor was the first one to say, well, I guess the old tree's got to go. In that next slide, that's what it looks like today. Now, those of you in the audience didn't see those flagpoles, did you? If you did, you looked closer than most people look, because that old tree is hiding those beautiful flagpoles there. That's what it looks like today. Next, David. This is in Burnsville, in Yancey County. Go ahead. That's Asheville. That's a granite setting. This is Indiana limestone in the state of Indiana. And that's the dedication day in Burnsville, North Carolina. We stopped here for just a second. We really like to have a big day on dedication day. We like for the high school band to participate. We like for some patriotic singing to occur. And we keep the speeches to a minimum. And we just have a really fun day for the citizens when we gift the Charters of Freedom to this beautiful county. That's a dedication day in Morganton. This is in Jacksonville, Illinois. It was raining hard that day, and we had over 200 people that stood in the rain to watch the dedication of the Charters of Freedom. Next. That's a rendering of, but that's what it's all about. You see that school teacher sitting there with those children, teaching them about the founding fathers and the documents that created this great country. And those documents are still in effect today. And that's what our country is based on. That is our goal, is to teach as many American citizens over the next 10 years what our founding documents are. Next slide. There's a young lady looking in the National Archives building, that she and her classmates wouldn't have to do that in beautiful Madison County if we had the Charters of Freedom here. Next. That's old Ben. You know, interestingly enough, the people who use it the most are the homeschoolers. We have any homeschoolers? The homeschoolers love to teach the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, and Bill of Rights. They use it an awful lot. There's old Ben. Let's move on from him. There's another classroom with a learning experience. Again, there are 3,143 counties, boroughs, and what's the one I always forget? Parishes in this country. Our goal over the next 10 years is to put as many Charters of Freedom in those locations as we can. Next. Foundation Forward is about access, education, and community. Any questions?
Great
David, can
work.
you quickly bring up the video?
Yeah,
While you're setting that up. Question.
Great work.
Thank you. You know, as a county manager, I had to please 5 distinct different personalities. But I don't have to do that anymore. I have fun every day, and it's so much fun for me to come out in counties and make this presentation to you. But this is what it's all about, and hopefully that I'm not asking you to make a decision tonight, but if I'm reading your body language correctly, and I think that I am, that hopefully soon we can move forward and build in Madison County. You pick the spot. We will evaluate it and critique it for you if you want us to, and we'll get started in building. I'm going to shut up for just a second. The sound?
I don't know if there being sound with this or not, hopefully so.
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't get to go to Washington, D.C. and see our founding documents.
So many people that I talk to don't know what the Charters of Freedom are. When we explain, they say, oh yeah, I've heard about those. It's very important that the students not only know about the history, but why they should have pride in these documents.
Back in 2011, my wife and I were up in Washington, D.C. visiting with some congressmen and some of the organizations up there. We had some free time, so we decided to go over to the National Archives. You walk through these big bronze gates into this rotunda, and there are the founding documents over on the other side of the room. These are known as your Charters of Freedom. The first time I saw the Declaration of Independence, something our founding fathers had actually penned, and saw their signatures, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Rutledge, and the others, I just got goosebumps. I remember the thought came to me, what if I could duplicate the experience I had up in Washington? The first time we saw the Charters of Freedom, what if I could bring that experience back to the citizens of Burke County? Then, on July 2nd, 2014, we dedicated the first Charters of Freedom monument outside of Washington, D.C.
From an educational standpoint, for our children to actually see it within their home counties, be able to touch it, feel it, and view it, it's a huge deal for veterans as well as for our children.
Imagine, if you will, 3rd and 4th grade school teachers bringing their classes here for annual field trips to learn a little about the documents, a little about our government, our founding fathers, and also about state and local history while they're here.
I think with the educational system, teachers and educators are sometimes limited by the materials and just time. So to be able to provide teachers with the educational materials that they can use to kind of focus their visits to these sites, that's exciting to me.
When they talk of their charters of freedom in their hometown, remembering that their fourth grade school teacher took them down and taught them about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. We're in the beginning of what could be a massive re-education of our founding principles.
Our goal as a foundation is to set monuments in as many communities as possible over the next 9 years, to provide access to our founding documents in the communities so the children and the people of these communities don't have to go all the way to Washington, D.C. to experience these documents in a proper setting. But they will no longer talk about the Constitution and Bill of Rights in Washington, but be talking about their Constitution and their Bill of Rights, the ones they grew up with, right in their home community.
That's our story, Mr. Chairman. We're sticking to it.
Well, that's a good one.
Any questions that the board might have, we'll answer.
Well, Lucy, again, thank you very much, and
Thank you.
as a veteran and as a lifelong school teacher, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And
Have a
thank you.
blessed day.
Commissioners, several months ago, Mr. Lewis was in town before budget, and I'm glad he was a former county manager who could appreciate the need to pause for a little while. But we did go down and look at the courthouse, and I updated y'all about that at the time. That appears to be the most logical place. It would be the best focal point in the county. We've got a small yard there, but looking at the right-hand side near the flagpole, it would be a change. There are some people who have issues with change, but I think the Morganton example is good. I think this is one of those things that people are they're a lot more open to than if we were gonna put something else out there, that didn't have this meaning. So try to move forward with that and let you all know how it goes, or if y'all have any feelings about a different direction on there. Seems to be the best spot, though.
That would seem to be the best spot, I think, right?
Where'd you think?
Courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Front lawn of the courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I'll even say that if we wanted to upgrade, if we wanted to fundraise to do an upgrade, I'm in for the first 500.
Yeah, I think we'll all, and I would like to know what the additional cost would be for the limestone or the granite.
It's in there.
Yeah.
It's in our packet.
Yeah.
We can talk offline,
Yeah.
whenever.
But I think we would have real good community support, as Matt has just said, to do this right, because this is a multi-generational investment.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
And we have an individual on our staff that can help with that.
Okay.
We also have the capability of manufacturing and gifting bricks. We can engrave bricks for somewhere between $15 and $17.
We've actually got a brick manufacturer right here downtown.
Do you?
If
Yeah,
so.
historic bricks.
Yeah.
Well, that would be splendid.
And these are engraved, you sell those and
Yeah.
the profits go to the project.
Sure.
If we do it, we do it right.
Very good.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us come.
Thank you.
Well, our pleasure.
Appreciate your time.
Our pleasure.
Here's
For the record, the upgrades range from $1,500 to $48,500.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 15,000. I apologize.
Yep.
15,000 to 48,500.
Yep. Granite's not cheap, but it lasts forever. Our freedom is not cheap either, and it should last forever.
Okay, the fifth item, Ms. Tammy Cook.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good
I have
afternoon.
very exciting information to share with you tonight, and I'm honored to be here in front of you. The first item that I have to talk about is the community forum that will be held on Tuesday, August 28th, here at AB Tech from 6 to 8:30. I am thrilled to have the partnership of the county government in this community forum. We will be addressing the opioid epidemic that impacts each and every one of us in this county. I strongly encourage you to participate. I encourage you to bring your friends, your families, your neighbors with you to this event. I had the privilege of hearing the first speaker that'll be speaking at the forum, and I didn't think we could get her to come to Madison County, but we did. She is a medical doctor herself and is in recovery, and she shares the changes that occur in the brain with addiction on a level everyone can relate to, and it's in common language that's not clinical, that you have to be a physician to understand. And I've been to many of these presentations, and you know, I take something away from all of them. This was by far the best presentation I've seen. And today I got the slide deck from the second doctor that'll be presenting on opportunities to deal with this epidemic. It's going to be a great presentation. I'm thrilled to have the community partnerships that we have. Strongly encourage everyone to participate. Please RSVP to Alyssa at the health department just so we can keep track of the number of attendees we're expecting. So that was one piece of exciting news, and now for the second one. Madison County is one of 10 bright spots featured in a report released in July by the Appalachian Regional Commission, the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation, and the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky. Madison County was identified as having key health outcomes that are better than expected in comparison to other counties in the Appalachian region. This region covers 205,000 square miles, 420 counties, and is home to more than 25 million residents. Many factors contribute to the health of a community. This report made multiple references to the resiliency of our county and the strong coalition that exists among nonprofits, churches, government agencies, the school system, and the healthcare providers to serve those in need. A bright spot is a county identified through statistical methods that demonstrates better than expected outcomes, given their characteristics and resources. Specifically, the socioeconomic, demographics, behaviors, healthcare facilities, and other factors that influence health outcomes. Madison County scored better than expected on 13 of the 19 health outcomes. This multi-part health research project aims to identify factors that support a culture of health in the Appalachian communities and explores how this knowledge could translate into actions that other communities can replicate. According to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, building a culture of health means creating a society that gives every person an equal opportunity to live the healthiest life they can, whatever their ethnic, geographic, racial, socioeconomic, or physical circumstance happens to be. A culture of health recognizes that health and well-being are greatly influenced by where we live, how we work, the safety of our surroundings, and the strength and connectivity of our families and communities, not just by what happens in the physician's office. Being identified as an Appalachian bright spot is recognition for the hard work we've put in an effort to improve the health and well-being of our community. However, we know that like many other communities, we're experiencing significant health issues. We still have further to go, but this is just the beginning of our journey to better health. And I frequently say that we may be a community with few financial resources, but we're a community that pulls together and does great things as a team, and this definitely proves that. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Well,
thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
Attorney, Mr. Donny Laws.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I have two areas to address you. First is the update for delinquent taxes for August. I believe you have a report in your packages. We've been, sort of had a slow summer while we were going over the new tax software and trying to help the tax folks out in the reappraisal contract, but I think we've got back on up to speed now. We've got a pretty exhaustive list of collections and sale of surplus properties here. Your first category there, list 8, attorney accounts that have been paid totaling $26,606. Before I actually received them, just on accounts that were paid into the clerk's office, $18,234.91. And then at the bottom, you'll see a list of closed sales on county tax surpluses. You know, essentially what happens if we don't collect the taxes, we go through the foreclosure process, we end up with the property back. So in order to try to collect back on those lost tax revenues, then we go through the process of selling that surplus property. And I certainly appreciate your willingness to move that along, and the days come when we actually get money in. So the total gross sales price of 4 of the tracts that we received back is $229,500. So then over on the next page, you'll see payment agreements. You know, that's, we actually get the down payment, which is usually 1/4, and then folks pay up to 12 months of monthly payments. So we collected $3,285 in those payments. Then Laurie has in her office non-attorney accounts that she actually does payment agreements for, and that's $10,000. So total collected for August, including sales of properties, $286,000. Now, you're not gonna see months like that every month, and let me tell you, because their big one here was finally getting rid of breakaway, which has been pretty much of a bear to handle over the last 2 years. So then you'll see the listings of new accounts that have been referred to us to the tax office for collection. And if you'll look at those, you'll look at the gross amounts. I mean, the largest account there is $3,040. And if you'll remember, in the past, we've had accounts that have been delinquent of 6 figures and 5 figures. So, you know, we're working them down to where the accounts are certainly, you know, not as substantial as they were to begin with. Have any questions about that report? The second thing will be, we have a lease that has expired over with a Hot Springs Learning Center. For the past 10 years, they've been leasing county-owned property, providing a daycare facility there. Their lease expires at the end of this month. Dee Heinmuller has talked with those folks. They are interested in re-upping with the county for a 3-year lease term. The lease amount will remain the same as $600 a month. They have, we share the electrical expense with them. I think they pay 70% of that. There's been a request to reduce that to 60%. Of course, if you are interested in doing this, since it's less than 10 years, we can do that. We simply have to run a notice of their intent in the local newspaper, given a 30-day notice period before we vote on it, authorize a lease, authorize me to run the notice, and then it can be executed after the notice period runs. If you have any questions about the terms of the lease, the process, I'll be more than happy to answer those.
Okay. Any
Being no comment, Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize our attorney to advertise and to execute the lease on the 3-year terms with the shared utilities.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Gentry for the Hot Springs Community Learning Center lease. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Rice.
Point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
Just so everybody knows, the reason for the negotiated electric amount is because that facility is also used as our meal site there. And so that's why we still pay part of the electric bill.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Good point, man. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor and a second by Commissioner. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
And folks, I will take this opportunity while we were watching the film there. I just had an email interchange with Harold Siegel, if you'll remember him. He is the fella who's been working on the opioid complaint. And we've been going back and forth with modifications to that 163-page complaint.
Right.
I sent him their modifications, and while I was watching the film, I got an email back from him that said they have agreed to all of our changes.
Good.
So I just sent him an email authorizing him to file that complaint.
Excellent.
He said it would be filed in federal court in Asheville tomorrow.
Excellent.
Thank you, Donny.
Thank you. Brooke Smith.
Rhea, do you want to catch that overhead light when you're back there?
I already did.
Okay.
We just turned off the middle and didn't turn off the front, but.
Yeah, I think the little button, the round button. Yeah, the video will show better. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I've got several things, so we'll just jump right in. The health department has had a vacancy for an environmental health specialist for an extended period of time. This position is essential to the economic growth of our county as well as the necessary support of our residents. This position will be licensed for both on-site, which is wells and septics, as well as food and lodging. These programs generate revenues for the department as well as help our residents. The recommended candidate for this position is Tim Ammons. Mr. Ammons brings a wealth of education and experience to this position and will be a benefit to the department and to the citizens of the county. Due to the training schedule for this position, you all approved an emergency hire of Mr. Ammons at the beginning of the month, and I'm here tonight to formally request that Tim Ammons be approved as a full-time environmental health specialist in the health department.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we hire Tim Ammons, the position of environmental health specialist.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion for the employment of Tim Ammons for environmental health. Second by Commissioner Gentry. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
The position of nutrition driver delivers meals from the preparation site to the meal sites across the county. One of the 2 nutrition drivers is out on leave right now, and in order to continue to provide this vital service to the community, a temporary part-time fill-in was needed. Due to the beginning date of the regular employee's leave, you all approved the emergency hire of Mr. James Sprinkle as a part-time temporary nutrition driver at the beginning of the month, and I'm requesting your formal approval of Mr. James Sprinkle as part-time temporary nutrition driver.
Okay. Any questions? Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we officially hire James Sprinkle as part-time temporary nutrition driver.
Okay, I'll second that. We have a motion by Commissioner Wechtel, second by Commissioner Brigman for the employment for Mr. James Sprinkle for the part-time temporary nutrition driver. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
position of part-time cook in the nutrition program under the Community Services Department is a vital position to the nutrition program. The cook plans menus, cooks the food, and packs the food to be delivered to the meal sites and homes of the homebound citizens. There's been a vacancy in this position since June, and during this time, other department staff have been filling in so that this service is still provided to the citizens of the county. Therefore, when a recommendation for the cook became available, you all acted quickly and approved an emergency hire. So again, I'm here tonight to request your formal approval of Mr. Randy Bailey and in the nutrition department as part-time cook.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we employ Mr. Randy Bailey as a part-time cook in the nutrition department.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion for the employment of Randy Bailey for part-time cook. Second by Commissioner Wechtel. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
Over the summer, a school nurse position became vacant. The state requires that we hire a registered nurse with either a bachelor's degree in nursing, which is preferred by the state, or we may hire an RN who's willing to work towards a BSN. The school staff, the school staff, including nurses, must report to work tomorrow before the students report next week. There's all kinds of required and mandatory training. So again, you all approved an emergency hire so that this person could begin work tomorrow, and I'm here to request your formal approval of Stacy Wilson as school nurse.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we hire Stacy Wilson for the position of school nurse.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Rice, second by Commissioner Gentry for the employment for school nurse for Stacy Wilson. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
The Information Technology Services Department, also known as the IT Department, has had a vacancy for an ITS Help Desk Associate since June. This position assists the other IT Department employees in completing work orders from county employees. Last year, the IT Department received roughly 2,500 tickets. And to kind of put that into perspective, there are only 2,080 working hours in a year. After completing interviews, the interview team and I would like to formally request that Mason Aranda be approved as the ITS Help Desk Associate, pending the results of a background check, drug screen, and reference check.
Okay. Any question, discussion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we hire Mason Aranda as IT Help Desk Associate.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion for the employment of Mason Aranda for the IT Help Desk Department by Commissioner Wechtel, second by Commissioner Gentry. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
All right, last thing. In the current budget, the Health Department has a vacant position for Nutritionist 2. This position has been vacant for some time. And during this time, the Health Department Deputy Director, Ms. Tammy Cody, has been evaluating the absolute need for this position. She's determined that the resources would be better spent on a part-time public health nurse community educator. Therefore, I'm asking for your approval of the reallocation of duties within the Health Department and to reclassify the vacancy from Nutritionist 2 to part-time health nurse community educator.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we reclassify the current vacancy from Nutritionist 2 to Public Health Nurse Community Educator.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Gentry.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wechtel for the Public Health Nurse Community Educator as stated. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. Okay, Rhea,
Good evening, gentlemen.
how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Good. So tonight, the first thing I have for you is the July 2018 financial report. First, I will caution, please do not be alarmed by this report. It is very different than we've seen other Julys. This is the first full fiscal year that we're gonna have encumbrances on the books. And what that means is we have looked ahead at things that we're spending throughout the year. Attorney's fees, triple P money for the health department, 4042 funds, etc. So there is a very large encumbered amount on here of $3.5 million. And this gets spent periodically throughout the year, not at one fell swoop. So when you look at what we are projecting, and we have encumbered this debt payments we haven't made that we don't make until sometime between February and June, it looks like we have no money. We are showing a total unassigned and unrestricted bank balance of a negative $746,000. That is not physical money we have in the bank right now. That takes into consideration, like I said, all these things that we know are coming, that we are promising to pay. Our actual total bank balances of unrestricted money is $6.7 million, and that will carry us through, of course, this 6 months as we start getting tax revenues in, and will help pay down these encumbered amounts, unspent and restricted grants, etc. So you will see that on page 1.
Rhea?
Yes, sir.
Are we getting any closer to having these in a format that we can put out so that when we say you'll see that, we're not the only ones seeing that these folks out here can see it?
I'm going to defer that to Forrest and Amanda as far as getting screens or whatever. I'm not sure on that.
We would need the financial report earlier in order to be ready to put it out, so.
Okay. Then yes, we're going to continue to work towards that.
Thank you.
You will see on page 2 the general fund summary. Month to date, this month, of course, this has a $750,000 loss at this point. We are spending money. We don't receive a lot of money in the month of July, as our tax revenues, that is the bulk of what we receive, do not come in this early. So we are spending money that we have held in reserves in our fund balance at this point, knowing we will get that money back. And you will see of that, there's $2.9 million of encumbered money for the general fund. You will see the landfill is similar situation, have a $105,000 loss at this point. Again, waiting for that property card money to come in, and there's just over $500,000 of encumbered money in that budget. And 911 has a $14,000 gain or profit at this point in time. They don't spend a lot of their money early on, and that has $6,000 in encumbered funds as well.
Okay. Any more questions?
On financials?
Rhea, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Last month, be the close of the fiscal year, we had a pretty nasty looking month. And you had told us that we expected income to increase, or revenue to increase.
Yes,
and
sir.
expenses to do some things.
Correct.
Can you tell us what the movement has been over the past 30 days and what?
Sure.
And you don't have to get specific. If you need to just send us all an email, that will be fine.
Well, I can do a little of both.
Okay.
I did bring a piece of paper on that. So right now, again, we are still waiting on sales tax money to come in. It takes 3 months to get that sales tax money in. So we've got 1 month. We've got August and September to get the May and June collections paid to us. As of August 1st, when I prepared this report, not including those sales tax collections because we didn't get it till August 15th, we are sitting at a just over $750,000 loss. I'm conservatively projecting just over $600,000 in those sales tax revenues to come in. So right now my projection is about $100,000 loss for last year. I am hoping my sales tax numbers are very conservative. I think most of our expenses expenses have come in at this point, but there may be a few more that trickle in, and hopefully, like I said, the sales tax revenues are over what I project, and we come out close to even for the year. Any other questions on the financial statements themselves?
No.
Okay, moving on to the, checks that were paid out for the year, or excuse me, for the month of July. On this report, we've paid out a total of $865,000 for the month of July. Most of these were fairly routine expenses that we do. Our financial software gets paid in July, our maintenance agreement for that, and that's it. But I don't recall anything out of the ordinary, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you've got.
I don't have any. Anybody have any questions for me? No. No.
Okay. Moving on to budget amendment number 2. Now you have a paper version of this. Please do not look at your tablets. You have a paper version that was updated late today, with some significant changes. On the paper version, I asterisked everything that was not on the original, and page 4 has a little summary of those changes. A few things to note on this. This budget amendment reflects an increase in revenues and expenses of $181,000 from our original budget.
I'm sorry, say again?
$181,000 of increased revenues and expenses. There are 4 main increases of the revenue. Child support and DSS. The state gives them their adoption promotion fund and child support incentive money for FY19 at the end of June. And we don't always know exactly what those numbers will be, so we received revenue in June that was for this budget year. So this budget amendment puts $24,000 of money we received in June on our FY19 revenues and expenses. There's also an increase in triple P funding of $110,000 due to an additional MOU for the Rutherford Polk McDowell triple P. We get a 4% administration fee for that. So there's revenue expense less that 4% on there. There was an increase in WIC funding of $8,795 and the associated expenses for those. And the library received 2 grants totaling $27,000. So there are related expenses with those as well.
And I notice you have one other note that the reduced raw food budget
Yes,
and the rest budget's created.
So that was the revenues. On the expense side, we have been looking, when we originally made the budget, back in March when we started this, the nutrition people, we were still contracted with that service. And we included a portion of the raw food, or a large portion of that would have paid for that contracted service, but now that we're doing it in-house, we are estimating that lower, so I've removed $10,000 from your raw food budget to cover other expenses we need in the county. And I'm anticipating that we'll be able to find some more savings in that line item, working closely with Dee and Kathy to make sure that we're being cost conscious and utilizing the best money we can for the county.
Okay. Any questions for her on the budget amendment 2? fiscal year ending, is why we have it.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, we're cool.
All right, any questions? None? Do I hear a
Being no questions from any of the commissioners, I would recommend that we approve budget amendment 2 as of August 14, 2018, as presented by our staff.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Gentry for the approval of Budget Amendment 2. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Wector. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. I have three more items for you. The next thing is the July 2018 tax releases and refunds.
Okay.
The information on the tablet's accurate for that?
Yes, sir.
Am I looking at that right? It's just 2 people?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. One for releases and one for refunds.
Okay. Any more questions or anything about the property releases and refunds? None?
I move they be approved as submitted.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Wector for the approval of the property releases and refunds for August 2018.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Gentry. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
Thank you. Next, I have the fiscal year 2019 JCPC county plan. These are documents that we just need you to say your continuing support. We've already got the numbers in our budget as they were submitted to us, matches exactly what they're submitting to us now. This is a complete continuation, same funding that we did last year for the same 3 programs.
And just so everybody out there knows, the JCPC plan is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, and that has nothing to do with housing juvenile inmates.
Correct.
Correct.
Just for clarification.
Mhm.
So they want to continue the 3 programs, which are the Madison Team Success, the Kids at Work, and the Project Challenge, at the same funding as last year. It was in the budget, yes. Basically, I need Mr. Brickman to sign and
Okay.
some signatures on some papers that Amanda's got for you.
So we don't need a motion on this, we just need to sign for it?
That I'm
I
not sure.
didn't prepare this, so I don't know.
I was just told to get signatures, so I think it's already in the budget. There's no change in the programs or anything.
I mean, if you've already funded it, I would think that
Yeah,
Okay.
I would
it's
concur.
there.
So we're sure that it's already funded in the budget?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
All right.
just wanna be sure about that.
Yes.
I think in the past you have approved the county plan. I mean, if the chairman's gonna sign it, it probably says,
There's no harm in
that it's
approving.
been authorized to do it, so that'd be
Yeah.
better.
It's not gonna
Yeah.
hurt.
To do it, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's,
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the JCPC plan.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Gentry for the approval of the JCPC county plan as stated. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Rice. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
And the final thing I have for you is the preliminary 4th quarter reporting from Vaya Health. As in the past, they submit us quarterly financial statements for you guys to look over, since we are funding and believe there's some general statute or something that says they have to do that. Don't believe we vote on it or anything, but just for your knowledge sort of thing.
Just for now. Okay. Any questions or discussion for Rhea on the Vaya Health reporting? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Rick.
Next up, our county manager.
things to talk about. One, Tammy Cody touched on the bright spot issue as well as the opioid community forum. I think when you look at how Madison County is just addressing that challenge, which we know is a major challenge in our county, and what you look at over the past 2 years that the health department has worked on, that area other medical providers have worked on, law enforcement working in conjunction with these folks, EMS, private citizens and nonprofits. Just in the past year, NA meetings have been set up in the county, and that was a volunteer effort. Some people went and stepped forward and did that. The drug court, which you all have funded, which I'll have a brief update on in a moment. All those things show how this county comes together very quickly to try to address a problem. And it's one of those problems that's going to take a long time to deal with. But I think that the things pointed out, if you read the section of Madison County in the ARC report, are the very things that you're seeing coming up with this forum and the other efforts that have gone on in the community. And it's a little bit government's a part of it, but it really says a lot about our people more than anything. So that's good. It's a good thing, hopefully, that our government reflects our people as well. The drug court, there was a meeting last week in Yancey County with representatives from probation, law enforcement, county managers, mental health from all 3 counties, so Mitchell, Madison, and Yancey. And we're moving forward. The 3 county managers are looking at exploring potentially contracting with a nonprofit to provide that service, which is what they have done in Watauga and Avery County. Nathan in Yancey County is getting that information. Been kind enough to do that for the other 2 counties. And as we learn from there, we'll come back with some movement there. But we're really working to try to get a person ready to go in the next couple of months so that program can get going. I attended a meeting last month out of town that the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina held. It was a rural summit for the 80 rural counties, and they focused on the 5 kind of key building blocks of economic development in rural areas, really any community, and that's education, workforce, infrastructure, health, and leadership in that community. And I'll just say from that 2-day event that I think Madison County got mentioned by various speakers more than just about any other county because of things that are recognized on how we're addressing issues. So right off the bat, Governor Cooper speaks and mentions broadband efforts that are underway, which you all funded a $90,000 match for an ARC grant, which has been applied for at the end of July. French Broad Electric is the applicant, but the county is helping with that match and help with the application, and we should hear back from that in the next few months. The county's moving forward there, and we have a good plan there. Nathan Ramsey, we had a Western person speaking, so it wasn't like somebody from way down east was talking about us, but when he spoke on workforce development, a lot of features. Advanced Super Abrasive showed up a few times in a great video with Heather Hicks talking about Hot Springs Spa, and more importantly, growing up, what it's like to grow up and live and work and make a living in Madison County. And then finally, Senator Harry Brown from Jacksonville, who sponsored the sales tax legislation, really pushed the sales tax legislation, the appropriations chairman, mentioned us as far as a county that benefited significantly from that additional revenue and how we have put that to work in exactly the ways the legislature intended. And so those are good things that people are noticing some positives, and it just means we have to keep working to actually get more concrete results from each of those things. Those are the only updates that I have at this time, and a couple of agenda items. The Medicaid Transportation Conflict of Interest Statement. DSS contracts with Madison County Transportation Authority to provide non-emergency medical transportation for Medicaid clients. So that is state and federal funding that comes to our DSS, and they make appointments for those Medicaid clients for transportation for medical appointments. And they use various vendors, and MCTA is their main vendor. And there is a cost adjustment this year. They're actually going up on the reimbursement rate for MCTA, so it's state funding. This will benefit MCTA, but in order to move forward with that, we need you all to approve the conflict of interest policy.
Mr. Chair, having reviewed the conflict of interest policy, I move that we accept it.
I will second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Wechsel, second by Commissioner Gentry for the approval of the Medicaid transportation contract. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
Next, with surplus property, have the upset period for the Rock Building in Mars Hill has expired. The additional property, there were no upsets for that. And this time, I believe, Mr. Attorney, we would need final acceptance of that piece, and then we'll move forward from there.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we execute.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gentry, second by Commissioner Briggs for the acceptance of the offer on the property and accept the amount. Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. That one's done.
And you have a bid that was received on a lot at Laurel Highlands. Had listed for $4,500, and you got a bid for the list price of $4,500. It's lot 8C, Laurel Highlands.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept this bid and move forward with the upset bid process.
Okay, second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Wechsel, second by Commissioner Gentry for the acceptance of the bid for the Laurel Highlands property, surplus property, lot 8C. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Next, you have some board appointments. Amanda has laid out in a good fashion for you. And you currently have a position on the Housing Authority Board that is vacant, and you have a position on the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board, which is not vacant. But you can appoint whoever.
It would be a renewal, reappointment. Yeah.
Okay, on Sam Hutchins?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we
Mountain
have,
Area Workforce Board must be private sector.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I move that we reappoint Sam Hutchins for a 2-year term to the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board.
okay. We have a motion for the reappointment of Sam Hutchins for the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board. Second by Commissioner Rice. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Chris Watson to serve on the Housing Authority Board
Okay.
I will
to
second
fill the
that.
vacancy.
I will second that motion.
Any more nominations for the Housing Authority Board? No? We have a motion for Chris Watson for the Housing Authority Board. Second, motion by Commissioner Wechsel, second by Commissioner Gentry. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
And you have the additional item, a resolution. There's some conflicts for the regular September meeting, and this resolution would delay that meeting 1 week until September 18th. This room has been confirmed to be available, so the location would be here at AB Tech. But the meeting will occur on Tuesday, September 18th, instead of the originally scheduled date of the 11th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we change the meeting date to the 18th of September as is in the resolution.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Gentry, second by Commissioner Rice for the change of the September 2018 meeting as stated. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
is all I have there. Mr. Chairman, there is an additional closed session for economic development, personnel, and property.
Okay.
Thank you, Forrest.
Yes, thank you, Forrest.
Do I hear a motion for closed session?
I move that we enter into closed session on the statutes, state of North Carolina, for the purposes the county manager has listed.
Okay, we have a motion for closed session.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rice. All those in favor, raise your right hand. We are now in closed session.
Thank you, folks, for coming. Evening. Did you finally get everybody?
How are you?
Oh, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.